Hi, I'm Gayla. After 20 years of climbing the corporate ladder, I took the leap and started my own business to pursue my dream of creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle. Having the freedom to work from practically anywhere is such a cool feeling. You're in the right place if you're looking for ideas and inspiration to start and grow your own online business. Every week in this podcast, you'll receive practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your online business where you can leverage your time and you can accomplish more. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. Hi there, and welcome to today's show. I'm so honored to bring on as a guest today, Genesis Eakes. I had the pleasure of meeting Genesis several months back, and I have to tell you, every single time I have the opportunity to have a conversation with her, I learn something new, and I'm motivated to become a better leader. She is very much people-centered, and relationships matter to her, and that is very much in alignment with me. And she knows and understands that the most valuable asset within any organization is the team. And as the founder and president of Genesis Eakes International, she believes that businesses exist to solve the world's greatest problems, and the most audacious goals can be accomplished when each member of an organization is passionate, productive, creative, cooperative, and when they bring a wide diversity of gifts, talents, and dreams of the team are being expressed and realized. She's a highly sought-after executive mentor, consultant, and speaker worldwide. Genesis is well-versed in the importance of asking key questions most business leaders won't ask themselves. She brings deep experience in leadership development, strategy, high-performance team building, and training to her work. Trained and mentored by Dr. John C. Maxwell, the #1 leadership expert in the world, she is equipped with the tools, resources, and experience to help business leaders and their teams improve productivity, performance, and profitability. What I love most about Genesis is her way of seeing how to build leaders within an organization to elevate the entire business. I can't wait for you to meet Genesis. So let's dive right into the interview, shall we? Welcome, Genesis. I am so glad you're here.
It's so great to be here. Thank you so much, Gayla, for inviting me. I'm excited to talk to your audience today.
Why don't you tell just a little bit about yourself and, who you are, what you do, and everything.
Sure. So first and foremost, I am the president of Genesis Eakes International, and primarily that is a leadership development organization because I believe that organizations and businesses are here on the earth to solve our biggest challenges. And I love working with mission-driven organizations and leaders in particular that have that mindset and that viewpoint that they are here on the planet to do something a little bit bigger, a little bit more significant than chasing a profit. We're all here because we do need to make some amount of money. I'm not opposed to profit in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, I think that the profit needs to be for something. And really, I love to see organizations that want to change the world, and they're doing it by the products and services that they offer. And what I do is come alongside them and help them develop their leaders and develop their teams so that they can actually accomplish the vision that they have for the world.
When you say profit, I think of prosperity, and I think that prosperity, when we as business owners prosper, we have more profit, it just benefits employees, it benefits the community.
Yeah, I think that you have to have something in order to give something. And so it kind of comes from that perspective, Gayla, that you really have to, you need to have resources in order to be able to help someone else with resources. You've got to be able to have something. And prosperity is a lot of different things, because you can be very prosperous in your relationships, prosperous in your family, prosperous in your marriage, prosperous with your children, also prosperous in, it doesn't always have to have a monetary association, although, like I said, it takes finances to actually be able to create new things and to get healthcare and food and digital products and all kinds of things that we need in our world, clothing and, you name it, right? It takes resources to be able to do that. And so I think that prosperity, you've got to be able to have some, you've got to be able to have some of those resources in order to reinvest and to be able to provide a wage for employees, to be able to provide healthcare for employees, to be able to benefit a community because you're there and you're providing jobs and services and all kinds of things like that. So that's kind of what I think of when I think of prosperity. It's more of a holistic approach.
What got you into, how did you start Genesis Eakes International, and what drove you to start your business?
Yeah, great question. So, I had this perspective because I started out in the corporate world working with a lot of corporations and helping them to develop their people. I was in human resources and training and developing programs and doing all kinds of stuff from inside the corporate space. And that was great. I loved it. I've had the benefit of loving every job that I've had, which is so fantastic. So I know not everybody has that opportunity. But I had this really unique perspective. And one of the things that started shifting and changing in the human resources world was that as our society has continued to change and evolve, is that more and more of the human resources role was focused in on the trying to just compliance nature of things, trying to make sure that people were in compliance with the rules, that the company was in compliance with what governments were saying, whether it was the federal government or local government, state government. We had to make sure that we're in compliance. And then it just shifted from being people focused and really on that, how do we take care of our people? How do we develop them? How do we help them? To being more risk averse, and that mindset of our job is to manage risk, not to help people. And I know that a lot of people got into the human resources world because they wanted to help people, and then have figured out as it continued in that role within that corporate space that it's really not that. And so what I've noticed is that most organizations don't really have a plan for their employees. They don't really have a way to develop them. There's no system or even thought process that comes alongside of them to help them do that. And what happens is that people, we all do this. It doesn't matter what size of organization we have. It doesn't matter if we are an entrepreneur, solopreneur. It doesn't matter if we have a small business. It doesn't matter if we have a large organization. We all will reach this capacity lid where our learning and our experience kind of catch up to each other. And it's like, okay, this is all I know. And we'll kind of hit this lid. And once that happens, if they're within an organization, if there's no plan to actually help people grow and expand that lid, what typically happens is they start looking for new people. And now they're like, yeah, this used to be a really great teammate, and this was a good team member. They used to be really productive, but now they're just not producing for me. I don't know what's wrong. We need to change them out. We need to get somebody new in here. We need fresh blood. We need new ideas. And so they're ready to throw out the old to get rid of the people that helped them build and create where they were, and then bring in new people, which is incredibly expensive, by the way. We're talking bottom line and profits. Switching out is incredibly expensive. So what happens is those people go off to other organizations, and then they'll grow and develop somewhere else, versus If organizations and leaders realize that they need to have a growth plan for every single employee, including themselves, this is entrepreneurs, you too, and you realize, okay, there's stuff that I don't know today that I need to know. There's places that I need to grow and develop. And if I'm not intentional about that, I'm going to level off and hit this cap on my own ability to execute what I'm trying to do. And you end up limiting your dreams.
Well, Genesis, when I was in the corporate world for 20 years and when I first started in the management space, the organization that I worked for, I mean, they really developed me and they trained me. I went to management classes because I was the first time supervisor. And I even remember this thick book that I had gotten and just learning how to do that. I was in my mid 20s when I did that. I find it interesting that you had said that HR has shifted or changed. As I left that space, I mean, I recognized that it was more about compliance and just we had all these rules, especially in the medical management field. And there's just a lot of rules that are put upon us. And the bigger the organization, it's like it wasn't that we could really connect with our employees. The atmosphere was so much different. And I find that it's so rewarding in a small business setting that I have the power to create the atmosphere that I want, to develop the team that I want. A small business owner, if you're just you, yourself, and I, it's just only you, and you're starting out and you haven't developed a team, what should we be looking for as solopreneurs to create a team, a great team from the start? What should we recognize?
Well, first of all, Gayla, one of the things to understand, because I know exactly what you're talking about, starting out and it's just you, yourself, and I, and that whole thing. And usually in that space, it starts out with a dream. It starts out with a vision. It starts out with like, oh my goodness, I can create X, Y, Z. And you have this incredible vision or mission about the life that you want, about the business you want to create, and this incredible dream. Well, the thing that is really important to understand is that the size of your dream is really going to determine the size of the team that you need. So if you've got a dream that you can accomplish all by yourself, and sometimes people do that and they just are in that freelance space and that's the dream that they have for themselves, and their team kind of looks like the people that they contract with, and they develop relationships and things with the people that they tend to work with, and that's part of their team. But other people join this entrepreneur space or the small business space, and they've got big dreams. They've got like these Mount Everest sized dreams about really changing the world, about changing community, about changing lives. And when you have a really large dream, one of those things to remember is that it's going to take a team to get there. Nobody ever did anything of significance by themselves. I actually heard an example just the other day. It was so great. In fact, it was about, I know we all use a mouse on our computer, right? We all are very familiar with what a computer mouse is. Well, the interesting thing is that they said no one person in the entire world, as simple as a mouse is, not one person in the entire world can create a mouse. It takes a huge team to be able to do something like a mouse. It takes design elements, it takes plastics, it takes manufacturing, it takes all these different components just to create something like a computer mouse. So when we're thinking about that small business space, or even if you're in that solopreneur world and you're thinking about what is next for you, you've got to start thinking in terms of that team that can help you grow the scale and the depth that you're looking for, that can build that vision that you see when you think of the purpose that your team or that your company is there for. So that team is really going to determine, and the quality of your team is also going to determine what you're able to accomplish, right? You think about it in terms of sports. If they don't have the right people on the team, then they're not going to be able to get that win. They're not going to be able to get the championship at the end of the season because they don't have the right people. They need to have high caliber people that are all functioning in the right space to be able to get them to that end goal. And again, in that entrepreneur space, a team can look like people that you are contracting with. It doesn't have to always be employees, but it takes that mindset that says, okay, who else do I need? What else do I need to come alongside me to help flesh out this team? So whether it's hiring an organization like yours or coming and needing, maybe you need people that can help you with your finances and your taxes and that sort of thing, but you don't need someone to be full-time yet, you can contract that out and that's part of your team. And you develop relationships, develop those conversations, like you were saying, those connecting conversations with your contractors, just like you would internal employees.
As someone that may not have managed anyone, some of my listeners may have not worked in an atmosphere where they've managed anyone. What kind of quality would we as solopreneurs need to be aware of that we need to develop as a leader if we're just starting out trying to be a leader? What's a quality that we need to be aware of and develop?
Thinking of developing within ourselves, one of the biggest things that I would say that every leader needs to develop is a growth mindset, because leadership is a journey. It is not a destination. And I think that's one of those things, again, from the corporate space and even from education. You think about from the time you were little, it's like, okay, once I graduate high school, then I'll be done learning. Or once I graduate from college, I'll be done learning. I got my bachelor's. Nope. Okay. Once I get my MBA or once I get this, then I'll be done. Or once I get this position, once I get this title, once I start my business, once I get this contract, that we always set these stopping points in our head. And we think, okay, once I get here, then I'm done learning, I'm done developing. And so then I can just coast and focus on other things. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that we all make, whether we are entrepreneurs or in that corporate space, is not adopting the growth mindset that it is a journey and I'm never done. Because as soon as I stop looking ahead, as soon as I stop that growth process and wanting to develop and get better, as soon as I stop doing that, that's where I've chosen where I'm going to level off. Because you can never outperform your thinking.
Wow, that's powerful. I mean, I've done that myself. It's like, okay, just one more, and then I'll be there. But it is a journey. It's not a destination. I can see that, how important that is. In my space, I hear a lot this question: how do I find the perfect employee? Do you get that question?
Absolutely. I think there are very few people that enjoy that hiring process. They just want, can we just be done? Can I just have the perfect team already? Can we just find that diamond? Where's that diamond? Where are they? And let me find them, and then we can just keep moving. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that we can do to help set ourselves up to find that diamond is when we are clear about the mission that we're after. Because when we are very clear about what our organization stands for, what our organization is here to do, what our organization's values are, when we can articulate that, it's going to attract the right person to you. It's the law of advanced attraction. That's exactly what it is. But you've got to spend the time and the energy to actually be clear on what that is. Because not everybody wants to do what you're doing, even though they might have the right skill to do it, right? Maybe you're trying to hire an assistant. There's lots of great assistants out there that have the skill, but you're going to end up fighting each other over vision if you don't hire for vision and values. And all that will happen is you'll see, and you see it time and time again in teams, is that they will hire based on the resume and their skills, and they end up with their teams fracturing because of division instead of literally focusing in on, do you see what I see? Can you see this vision of the world that we're wanting to go after and create? This is why we're here. And then hiring people that fit that.
Who primarily do you serve in Genesis Eakes International?
So I typically work with the executive leaders of mission-driven organizations. I love people that are clear on that mission and what they want to accomplish in the world, and helping them because, again, when they're clear on that vision of the world that they want to see, when they know what they're there to do, one of the biggest things that they need help with is, okay, now how do I develop my team to help me accomplish that? So I don't need to come in and help them with their vision. I don't need to come alongside them and help them with that part of it because they're the subject matter expert. They are an expert at that part of it. But what they're not an expert at is people. What they're not an expert at is developing that. Because here's the interesting thing that I will tell you, just a little hint for everybody. If we are not intentional, we reproduce who we are, not what we want. And that is something that leaders rarely realize. So if you have been leading an organization or a team for 3 years, studies have shown every single problem that is in that team is directly related. It's a direct reflection of the leader. It's always a manifestation, and it usually shows up in different ways, right? So if the leader is not a great delegator, and then it will show up in different ways in their team. Maybe it doesn't look exactly the same way. What it will show up like in the team is that they end up working in silos and not collaborating together, right? But that is a direct correlation to the leader not being a very good delegator. And
Yeah.
so helping them understand, because we can't see it when we are the picture in the frame. That's the hard part, right? When it is us, it is really hard for us to be able to see where those things are. And it takes somebody else, it takes an outside perspective to be able to come in and see where those things are and to help us intentionally go after that, so that we can create the diversity that we're actually looking for on our teams, so that we can innovate, so we can be creative, so we can actually put people in the right positions, in the right spaces, and really go after that mission that we're trying to accomplish in the world.
So can you give an example of like and not saying any names or anything like that, but just an example in your work that there was a problem, the mission was there, but how do you reflect that or get the employees on board with that mission so that it elevates the whole company? Having employee buy-in to the mission, how do you get that word out?
So I would say it starts with hiring. It really and truly starts with hiring, because if someone's not bought into the mission, or the leader, the manager, the supervisor, if whoever is hiring, if they were not clear on what the organization is about and what the mission is from the very beginning, it's going to be really hard to correct perceptions or to adjust somebody's internal compass, if you will, to orient towards that mission if we didn't do a great job on that hiring side. But here's the other thing. So, say someone was bought in and they're like, yes, I love this mission. This is awesome. They're passionate about it and they're jumping in with you and saying, yes, let's do this together. Everyone should know that mission and vision fade. That's the hard part. And it's, as a leader, sometimes it can get boring, maybe. It can get redundant. It can get repetitive. And it's like, well, I already told them 5 times. Like, why do I need to tell them again? But it fades because everything else, it's the tyranny of the urgent. There's so many other things that can crowd out what we're actually doing this for. And so there is a consistency of messaging that has to become part of the routine of that top leader that casts that vision, because their primary job is to cast vision and help them, because vision is what makes the pain worthwhile. Can I just say it that way? I mean, that's what
Yeah.
helps every employee. If you, like, for example, if you're trying to go on a diet and you want to lose weight or something like that, and you're in that space, there's usually some painful parts of it, right? And maybe some working out that's different. Your muscles are going to hurt. There's some adjustments in your diet, and so not eating chocolate cake every day, or whatever, right? And that can be painful in different ways. I'm having to curb some stuff. I'm having to do some things that I don't necessarily, quote unquote, want to do, but I want this other result. I'm willing to go through this pain to get this result on the other end, which is some, whatever number on the scale, or, particular way I want to look, something like that. Well, organizations are the same way. It can get tedious, right? Checking in all the emails and doing all of the tedious tasks that need to be done, all of the details around the edges, and creating new, and being in there and dealing with people and conflict and messy customers and all kinds of stuff, right? That can happen on a day-to-day basis. If we lose sight of the mission, what is this actually for? Why are we doing this? What is that for? Then all of a sudden it just gets kind of crummy, and nobody wants to come to work every day. And they're like, ugh, my job's a drag. They stagnate. They start moving backwards. They stop leaning in. All of that stuff because they just forgot what all of this is for.
So what we're really doing when we are developing our employees, or even however we want to build our team, our independent contractors, it starts with how we delegate, and shifting from solopreneur to being that visionary, and always keeping that vision in place and communicating that vision, so the people that work with us can be independent thinkers and just flow to the vision, instead of we as solopreneurs, who we started out as doing every single thing and doing all the thinking. We've got the power of a team thinking for us. That's a big that's a big transition, but I think we can do it a little bit at a time. It starts with one.
It is a big transition, Gayla, because you have to go from doing everything, right? It's a big shift from doing everything yourself to trusting, right? You actually have to build the relationships of trust with other people that allow them that freedom of thought, allow them the freedom of creativity, allow them to bring a different perspective to the table. And then your job shifts to getting things done through people instead of doing it for them. It's kind of like, going back to a sports analogy, it's kind of like the difference between being the player on the court and being the coach that stands on the sideline, right? The coach is not going to score the baskets, but he's going to create the vision and maybe help with the game plan and all of that stuff that helps that player on the court succeed.
Absolutely. I had this one manager years and years ago, and we had the vision, the corporation had the vision, and as I'm listening to you and thinking back on this manager, she was hard to work with. I mean, not work for. She was just a tough manager, and I loved her because we knew where we stood with her as a supervisor under this manager. We went with our gut. She was really big on, how to treat people. You know what's right. Let your gut guide you in what we were doing. And it happened to be medical billing and helping the patients of the organization with their insurance filings. And if we did something wrong, maybe in her eyes, I loved her perspective of, she brought us in the office and she said, what was your thought process on that? And every single time she had all of us, all her team, she had our backs. It was wonderful. And it was a learning experience with her, that she would say, I saw where your mind was going. I think I would have done it this way. And it was a teaching, and it was a great atmosphere. Not everybody liked to work with her, but that's where it was. And it was a honor for her that any employee underneath her was able to be promoted somewhere else. Whereas I've had some managers in my past that they were just like, these employees are mine. I don't, felt threatened if their employees left. Of course, you have to, if they get promoted, you have to like retrain someone else, and that's a pain. But it's in an organization, I think it's really key that you can draw people up through the organization because they're able and better equipped to get the mission fulfilled. I think it was
Yeah,
just
it's really interesting too. You brought up, I love that you brought up two distinct styles of leading, right? One was this style where you had a manager that she was not scared of her people. She trusted her people, even trusted the mistakes that they were going to make. And her whole goal, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that her whole goal was about, I want to help you understand how I think. So if you understand my thought process, then you can take that and interpret it, build on it, grow it, do whatever, and make it even better. Versus another style that you were describing where I see this time and time again within organizations is that it's more of a scarcity mindset, to be honest, where they're scared of losing the people. Oh my gosh, I have a good employee. I don't want to lose them. So I'm going to hang on. I'm going to hold on as tight as I can. And you'll see it. Well, they'll hang on to people. They'll hang on to information. They'll just slow down that progress. It's like, I might not get that to you as fast as I could, or, there's just little subtle ways that we can do that, or that people do that when they're scared of losing what they have. And that's the other part of that own leader development part, because every leader, they got there for a reason. And what they don't know oftentimes is that scarcity mindset and trying to hang on so tight because they're scared of losing what they've got is actually the very thing that's going to make them lose what they've got. And what happens is their teams start imploding from the inside. It breeds jealousy, it breeds contentment, contempt for each other, and just ugly, ugly things start coming out in the team. And then they're not able to produce, they're not able to get the results. Communication breaks down, people are starting to jump ship left and right. And that leader just lost everything that they were trying so hard to hang on to.
we have the choice of what kind of leader we want to be, right? And that is so exciting. If we're still in the solopreneur space, or we have a very small team, we have the opportunity to create such a wonderful and engaging team. You've given a lot of great advice. You left the corporate world to create Genesis Eakes International. Did you start out intending on creating a team? What's your vision for Genesis Eakes?
Actually, I did. And that was kind of, not everybody does that. And that's the interesting part of the journey as I've discovered more about the entrepreneur space, is that I've discovered that most people actually don't start out knowing that. They just start off with a vision or an idea or a concept, and then they just start running, which is a great way to start. I would so much rather people start than wait to have everything all in place, and because you can just get stuck in that paralysis by analysis, and then you just never pull the trigger. And so I love that people just tend to jump and then build their wings on the way down, if you will, right? For me, I guess I did have the benefit of some really great examples that had walked the road before me, and some really great mentoring that came alongside me. Because I will say, well, first of all, I tried to start this business. It had a different name, but I tried to start this business back in my late 20s, because I started seeing the need and the benefits that I could bring to this space clear back then. But what I didn't have was the experience, and I didn't have the knowledge and some of the mentoring and that sort of thing. And so it didn't work the first time. I can say that, so if you've ever started a business and it didn't work the first time, you get to come back and try again, which is great. So when I started Genesis Eakes International, I was on a much different footing, and I had some much more intentionality about the foundation that I wanted to lay. And that affected every aspect of what I do, because yes, absolutely, I incorporated from the very beginning, because I knew I was going to need a big team to be able to facilitate this dream that I have. And so it starts even from how do you set it? Do you start out as a DBA? Do you become an LLC? Do you actually go full corporation? And what your dream is and what mission that you want to have in the world really will help you set those structures and those right processes and foundations.
So is it too late for those that have been in business for a little while and we feel like our team may be in a little bit of mess? We kind of know it's like, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know how to get some peace and grow and develop our team.
It's never too late. That's the great news, right? It's never too late. And there's never a wrong time to start. Right? You just get to take each day as it is, and you get to start today. Maybe you learned something that you didn't know before. Maybe you thought about something, or this conversation triggered an idea or a thought in your head. And you're like, you know what? I could use some more intentionality about this, or I could use some help in how I do X, Y, or Z, or what I'm looking at for the future and the size of team that I need, or what kinds of people that I need. Maybe I need some help with hiring. Maybe I need some help repositioning people. Maybe I just need some help myself, right? Maybe I just need some executive coaching so I can get that right vision and get some of these ducks in a row. Now is a great time to start, because
Awesome.
I can tell you it never gets easier. I can tell you that, because the bigger you grow as an organization, the harder it is to actually shift gears. So if you're feeling like things are a little bit messy, or maybe they're not quite functioning on all the cylinders that you want, or maybe some processes aren't quite exactly the way that you want them to be, it doesn't get better with time. It actually gets worse, and it gets harder. It's not that you can't do it. You can do it at any phase. It's just how much pain, just how much, how much of a struggle, how much of a process it's going to be to make those adjustments. So if you are in that entrepreneur space, or that small business space, that smaller team space, this is the perfect time to jump in and really get intentional about the team that you want to create.
If you start small, you can build on that. And I love that you said that team development is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not like somebody comes in. We always have to be in that growth mindset, just like you said.
Yes, it's a continual process, right? So that part of the job, just like with your business, right? You never reach an end point where you're like, okay, we're not selling anymore. We don't want any more business coming in. Right? So I think as soon as we hit that place where we're saying we don't want any more business coming in, well, we've actually started to plan our own obsolescence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what we do. And so some organizations are in the decline and they're looking for that exit strategy, and that might be their exit strategy out of the market and trying to finish how to end well. Okay. But if you are growing, if you are still wanting to be relevant in the market, you're still wanting your business to be there, your team just keeps growing and developing just like your business does. It's not an either or, it has to be a both and. Because if you are not growing and developing your team at the same rate that you're growing and developing maybe your products and services, the level of things that you can deliver to the marketplace, then one is going to collapse on the other.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. What has been the biggest challenge for you in growing your business?
I would say the biggest challenge for me in growing my business is leading myself. I think I am always my own biggest challenge. And I think that's probably something that will resonate with other people that are leaders. Because it's amazing how easy sometimes, I don't know if easy is the right word, or how much more clear it is to see issues in other people. But, so leading my team and developing my team and working with others, it's amazing, man. I've got like this very clear 2020 vision there. But when it comes to me, it can get muddy. It gets hard. And wow, I can be my own worst employee.
Oh my goodness,
I
yes.
need to fire myself half the time. That's probably the biggest struggle, is learning and keeping on that edge for myself. And so I live, Gayla, I live what I talk about. I live what I preach to other people. And so I have people that I pay for that help mentor me, that help hold me accountable, because I know I can be my own worst enemy. And when I don't have a quote unquote boss above me that's like trying to keep me in line or something like that, if it's just me holding me accountable, there's this term in psychology that they call it flexible cognitive dissonance. And it's this really big word that basically says that as human beings, we have this unique ability to lie to ourselves. And we do it all the time because we can rationalize the world, right? So even I'm going to go back to my diet example for a second. So if I'm on a diet and maybe I've sworn off sugar, we'll say that, or I'm like no carbs, no sugar at all. I'm in that world. I'm saying, nope, I'm on this strict clean and I'm not going to do any sugar. And then someone offers me a bite of something. And so I take a bite of cake or a bite of whatever. And I say to myself, I'm still on my diet because I just had a bite. And the truth is, no, I'm actually not on my diet anymore. Even one bite means that I broke what I said I was going to do. But my flexible cognitive dissonance, right? There's this amount of elasticity that I have in my brain that we all have that can justify it. Well, I'm still doing that. Well, I didn't do this. Well, I'm fine because this. And so we will rationalize it away and then end up wondering why we're not getting the results that we're looking for. So, and that's where, like I said before, it is so important. If I can say one piece of advice to solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, leaders of any kind, do not lead alone. Get help. Bring people alongside you that you are willing to be accountable to, because we will lie to ourselves all day long and we will rationalize why we're not getting the results that we want. And then your vision and your mission in the world, the transformation that you want to see, just goes unheard.
Yes.
And the world needs you. The world needs what you bring.
Oh, thank you for that, because I'm my worst enemy and I can see it. And I'm the biggest bottleneck in the whole, if there is growth, stagnation, or growth, it comes from me as the leader, because you're a big, long word.
Exactly. That flexible cognitive dissonance.
Oh my goodness.
The struggle is real, Gayla. The struggle
It is.
real.
It is so real. It is so real. And it's assuring to me. I think that we all feel it at different levels. And it's very, I guess, comforting to me that I'm not alone in feeling it, and then building the support and the accountability around. It's like I'm going in the right direction. It's all a journey. I love entrepreneurship because it is such a wonderful journey.
It is. And there's no finish line. You get to determine that, which is great.
At this point in your business, what you know now, if you knew that when you started, whether it's the first time or the second time, what is it that you know now that you wish you knew then?
I think it's what I shared a second ago. I think the biggest thing is don't lead alone. There's always going to be someone out there that is bigger, smarter, faster, something that is further ahead of you in the journey, in whatever the space is, right? And if you can't find those people, you're in the wrong space, first of all, because we all need models that we can follow. And I think if I would have known, especially starting out, and again, the naivety of youth probably, and just thinking, oh, I can do this all by myself. I can do this all by myself. But nobody ever did anything of significance by themselves. Remember what I was sharing about the mouse, right? None of us can do it by ourselves. We need people. Everybody needs a client. Everybody needs a customer, even if it's just that, right? Is to get out of that mindset of stop trying to do it alone. Don't be afraid to pay for it. Because I will also say that when you're first starting out in that small business space or that entrepreneur, solopreneur space, finances are usually tight. right? And you're
Absolutely. Yes.
pinching pennies and you're looking at every single thing and trying to make sure you've got enough to live off of and do all of the things, and everything counts. And so one of the things that I think we do in that space, again, it's a mindset, right? Is that we're like, okay, we'll neglect our own personal development because we're trying to develop the business instead of remembering that we are the business and the business cannot outperform us. And so we won't spend the money, we won't spend the time actually getting the help that we need,
And
actually
maybe
growing or paying for a mentor, paying for a coach, paying for that right accountant or the right marketing person or whatever that you need.
the professional with the experience to help you through, because I know that there's a lot of tools and a lot of gadgets and a lot of things. And one thing that I've been frustrated with myself with is I've invested, but I've invested in the wrong thing. I think at the wrong timing, because maybe there's some wonderful courses out there, or there's that great slick software that is $500 a month, and I'm going to create this course and I'm going to be doing this because you got the vision. And if I had this piece of software to do it, then all my problems would be solved. And I've seen a lot of folks in my space that they have that. It's like, oh, I need that. And then when they get that, they don't have enough funds to create the process or even start programming the system to get it going. And I had been guilty of that and investing things at the wrong time. I don't have regrets. It was learning experiences, but the timing of joining mastermind groups and having mentors and investing in that was much more valuable than the gadget. There are tools out there, and sometimes when you're starting out and you're solopreneur, the simplest tools are the best tools. And then you work your process, and then you purchase the tool that goes with your process instead of creating a process of this really expensive tool.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And I think that shiny gadget mentality is so prevalent. And I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs or small business owners, we are looking for that magic bullet of, right? It's like, okay, there's going to be a gadget, there's going to be an app, there's going to be something that is going to be this magic thing that gives me the breakthrough I'm looking for and helps things explode to that next level. And what we forget is that we are that gadget.
absolutely.
And that we are the ones, because if you don't have that internal step, it's like that the right ability to use the tool, right? Like what you're talking about. You might have this big shiny gadget that you just paid all this money for and have no ability to use it because you don't have the team and the support or the bandwidth yourself to be able to run it yourself, or all kinds of things. But it's that internal mechanism that's got to get fixed first. And I think it's just such a tendency to chase the gadget instead of doing the harder work of building up yourself and developing yourself as that leader. And I love what you said about making sure that you're hiring the right professional, because, and this is a statement I heard a while back, it's like, if you think hiring a professional is expensive, try hiring an amateur.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And I know just from getting work done at my house, when I've tried to just have friends or family do certain things, it always ends up costing me more time, more energy, more resources, more mental anguish.
Yes, more brain power, because you have to make all the decisions. Like, I just want this concept, just make it happen.
But we're so afraid to hire the professional, right?
Right.
We'll see that dollar amount and they're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to pay that. But then when you start counting up the cost of what you're paying for the amateur, you've spent twice that.
You have. I'm going to kind of wrap up our interview today, Genesis, and I would love for you to share maybe your favorite book or resource that has really made a difference for you professionally?
Sure. I love this. I'm an avid reader, so
Mhm.
it's a scary question when people ask me for a book or a resource, because typically they're going to get a list like a mile long. And so I have to kind of rein it in a little bit and try and prioritize and
Mhm.
see if we can hit the target of what would be most helpful for them. And I would say, if you're in that place of really trying to wrap your head around that visioning and mission and really developing that so you can articulate it well in the marketplace and for your team, and looking at some of those things that you're looking to grow and develop, I would say Simon Sinek's book, The Infinite Game, is phenomenal. It's actually, I think it just came out this January, or, within the last year, so it's fairly recent. But it's a phenomenal book and really helps set that trajectory of how do we stay for the long haul and not just be a flash in the pan. And so really helping to get your head oriented around, am I playing a finite game or am I in this for the infinite game? You're in it for the infinite game, then you're able to pivot and adjust with whatever the market throws at you. So first and foremost, I would highly recommend that one. The other resource that I would absolutely recommend for every leader, and it kind of goes back to some of the things that we started out with, is on growth. And I would suggest John Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. That is also an incredible resource that it doesn't matter where you are in your process, you can always get better. And if you are looking at developing a growth process for your team, it kind of really articulates what actually is a growth plan and how do I make sure that I'm on a growth plan and how do I make sure my team is still growing, and lots of those kinds of things. And it's very easy read, it's very practical and accessible.
Awesome. I will have those resource links in the show notes, along with all your contact information. But how can people connect with you? What's the best way to connect with you?
Sure. So they can find me on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Those are great places to find me. Luckily, there's not a lot of people with my name, so it's fairly easy to do a quick search and find Genesis Eakes, and you just spell it exactly how it sounds. It's Genes, like Sam, IS, and the last name is Eakes, Eakes. So you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, and you can also find me on my website at genesiseakesinternational.com. And just for your listeners today, Gayla, I wanted to make sure that they had access to me personally if they had a question or something that they wanted to reach out to me about. And I wanted to just give everybody my personal email so they had access to me directly. And that is genesis@genesiseakesinternational.com. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about developing yourself and about developing your team, and to see what we can do to help you accomplish that mission, the dream that you have, that your business is here to accomplish.
Thank you so much, Genesis. It was a joy having you here today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Something that Genesis didn't mention was a wonderful download about compounding the power of teamwork. It's a 6-step team investment strategy for long-term profitability. I have the link right here to download in the show notes. I encourage you to read it, whether you have a good-sized team already or you're an office of one and are thinking about hiring your first team member. Heck, even if you're an office of one and don't want a team member, it is a perfect download to give you perspective on how to compound the talents of your team, even if it's a team of one. I love my team, I have to tell you. I truly adore each and every team member. I'm appreciative of them and everything that they bring to the table. And I think that they're awesome. I can't say enough about it. I guess I'm a little biased, but that's just me. But here's the thing. I realize that any dysfunction that I perceive may be happening, I may be having a bad day and I'm just like, this is not working. Any dysfunction that I perceive that's happening in my company is directly the result of something that I'm either doing or not doing. I'm either developing or not developing. Even though I've held leadership roles on a consistent basis since my mid-20s, I have so much work to do as a leader still. There's so much more to learn, and we all evolve as leaders. And I love that Genesis reminds us that leadership is not a destination. We never arrive. Leadership is a journey with many highs, lows, there's curves, there's hills, there's plateaus, and I love the journey. The more we know and learn from others, and bring someone from the outside to get that outside perspective, the more we grow. Well, thanks for joining me today. If you haven't, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe to the show. And it would be great if you'd leave a review or drop me some feedback. And it's no secret that Instagram is the social media platform that I have the most fun with. So if you're hanging out on Instagram, I'd love for you to drop me a note. Until next time, have a fantastic week.